Welcome again, one and all, to another adventure in the world of video store memoirs. I'm your host, Kevin Selena, here to talk to you about a very, very big movie special that came to us from DC Animated Universe. Took about a year for this to all come together. Today I'm going to be talking to you about Justice League Crisis on Infinite Earths, Part 1, 2, and 3. Just to give you an idea here, I will. This technically story started back in actually today's exact date, July 25th of 2023. DC Animated came out with a movie called Justice League Warworld. Just a little selfish promotion. If you want to hear about that movie, we did a review about that. Please check it out. But anyway, that movie led into a small sneak peek of that a crisis is coming in the DC universe, and it's going to take the entire DC universe to face and stop it, if that is actually possible. So, for those of you who don't know, back in the 80s, there was a continuity problem in DC Comics. Everything started to splinter off. There were too many Batman. There were too many storylines to try and keep everything together. So they came up with a grand idea of a storyline called Crisis on Infinite Earths. Basically, the multiverse is in danger. All different manners and forms of the DC universes, your Batmans, your Supermans, your Wonder Womans, all of them from different worlds are coming under crisis from a creature known as the Anti-Monitor. Basically, he's a giant ball of antimatter who is trying to do his best to destroy everything and leave nothing to chance except for himself. So, that being said, initially when I heard about this movie, I was like, oh my god, they're going to do an animated version. The CW just did their version very recently on TV, so I was like, it seems a little too close for them to be trying to pull this off. But once I heard it's not just going to be one movie, it's actually going to be a three-part series, each movie at least an hour and a half each. I'm thinking to myself, wow, you're really going to get a great look at the entire storyline. If not exactly like the comics, at least in a way that will do it, ironically, justice. So I sat back. The first one came out in January of this year. Second one came out, I'd say, about April or May. And the final chapter just came out last week. In the long run, for me, seeing the three parts broken up, the first one, it didn't seem like they were really diving in too much into that whole crisis problem. It was just kind of singular set on one character and seeing how they were dealing with it. It wasn't until this part 2 where you got to really see a more, on a more universal scale, how many characters from the DC universe are being affected by this. In hindsight, that's probably good. The opening chapter just gives you an idea of the Flash's perspective on what's going on and how his world came upside down and his part in trying to help everyone with this crisis. But everything else, especially for the final chapter, shows the brain work of everyone coming together, everyone using whatever power, whether it be intellect, super strengths, scientific knowledge, coming together and just trying to pool some kind of grand idea that could save everyone. Part 3 really just dives in completely, goes bananas, because of course it's the last part, and you're just along for the ride to see how exactly do they survive. Will they survive? Is there anything that can really be done that's not going to end up with a tremendous loss of life? Me personally, watching this, I thought they did an excellent job with how they portray the story. I don't think it's exactly like the comics, but in the way that they do it, it doesn't have to be. It goes along with the whole idea of what they had established with many of their movies they've done over the past years. DC Animated has done, this is what they would call the culmination of their Tomorrowverse. Superman Tomorrow was the first movie of this reboot of the animated movies, and now it comes to the end with this. And the way everything worked together, and you get these heroes who basically didn't really work together that much. Their solo movies were exactly that. They're solo movies, and it takes the final one to bring everyone together to figure it out. I'm going to say, in my opinion, it takes a while to get truly into this movie. It was hard for me. Like I said, the first one, I didn't really get it. The second one, I was like, okay, I can see where you're going. The third one's like, it brought the whole aspect of the story together, and you're like, oh, that's what you were doing. And it worked. It worked very well. The reason I bring up the fact that today's the anniversary a year ago when Warworld came out is because they reach all the way back even for a little bit to let you know why Warworld truly was the setup for Crisis on Infinite Earths. And it's a nice little bow. It's not overly done. It's not bashy over the head of it. It's like, oh, this is why I had to watch this movie. If I hadn't watched Warworld, not knowing that it had something to do with what was coming, I probably would have been lost for the last 15 or 20 minutes of this movie. So, kudos to you guys. DC, you did a great job. I really wish the live action could do as well as you guys do in animated. That's just my 2 cents. But anyway, that is my thoughts on Justice League Crisis on Infinite Earths. Like I said, it's a 3-parter series that starts off truly with Justice League Warworld. You can check it out on HBO Max. Right now, they currently have Warworld Part 1 and Part 2 of Crisis on Infinite Earths available. You can watch at your leisure. They'll probably bring on Part 3 within a couple of weeks since, like I said, it was just released last week. But anyway, highly recommend it. Overall, I give it about 3.5 clamshells. Good, solid storytelling. They took their time, and they made it work. But there you go. We're going to have more reviews coming your way. I know I'm definitely going to be working on a bunch of stuff in between all of the Olympics watching. So speaking of which, make sure to check out our podcast. We're doing a review of the beautifully done movie Cool Runnings. But that's it for me today. Once again, I'm Kevin Selena. Thank you, as always, for checking us all out. Make sure you check us out on social media. We are everywhere. Google us, Video Store Memoirs. Check us out on Twitter. Check us out on Facebook, TikTok. Speaking of those people, thank you all for your recommendations of movies. I've heard them. I appreciate you. But that's all the time I've got. Thank you again. We'll see you next time. Enjoy the movies.